Good afternoon, everyone. Today I was actually thinking about the potential impact of US tariff increase on the Indonesian social protection system. I'm still doing brainstorming on my side, and if you have any ideas, I would like to learn from you and what would be the discussion points, so I could probably incorporate with my memo. Um, I was thinking several points, including the impact on Jaminan Kehilangan Pekerja unemployment insurance scheme, for example. The most likely the export-oriented sectors, including footwear, clothes, footwear, and any related garment industries may be affected by this U.S. tariff increase. And these sectors employed quite a lot of, let's say, formal employees. So these sectors are generally considered as companies that comply with labor law and social security laws in general. So these employees, most of these employees should be covered by Jaminan Kehilangan Pekerja or unemployment insurance. So when these workers are terminated, dismissed due to the economic downturns affected by the US tariff increase, these workers may be eligible to receive unemployment insurance benefits from BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. And then, of course, the mass layoffs may spread to many different companies if this US tariff increase impacts permanently to these sectors. And then the affected employees may come to claim the JKP benefits to BPJS through Siap Kerja web portal. And of course, the JKP fund will start depleting its funds, so that will eventually lead to the financial sustainability problem of JKP fund. We haven't had any analysis on the current financial balance of JKP. We were planning to do so in different contexts this year together with BPJS Employment. We are going to conduct JKP actuary evaluations this year. So we may have much better ideas about potential impact of US tariff increase. And we may have good data on financial balance through this exercise. But for now, theoretically, the potential increase in the number of unemployed in these sectors may lead to the increase in the number of claims to JKP. In addition, I think it is noted that the government recently reformed unemployment insurance policies by the government regulation number 6, 2025 in February. And these reforms improved actually the benefit design, adequacy of benefit from the previous 45% for the first to third month and 25% of wage from the fourth month to sixth month. But now the JKP provides a benefit of 60% of previous wage, last month wage, up to 6 months. So it is good news for potentially affected workers in the future. They will have a 60% benefits up to 6 months. That is good for them. And in addition, there was a relaxation measures of potentially to increase the number of claims. that is to remove the required consecutive 6-month employment prior to unemployment. So this was removed from the JKP qualifying conditions. So if the workers were employed for 12 months, within the last 24 months, they were eligible. They should be eligible to receive JKP benefit when they were dismissed. So these were the good news for potentially affected workers in the future. However, it is a bad news for the financial sustainability of JKP, of course, because these measures, relaxation measures, will certainly increase the expenditure of BPJS employment. So at some point, once the situation is settled, the BPJS may have to start increasing contribution rate to ensure financial sustainability of the JKP fund. However, in the same regulations, actually the government reduced the contribution rate of JKP down to 0.36%. So it used to be 0.46%. So there was a reduction by 0.1%. So the recent reforms actually increased the benefit level and they relaxed the qualifying condition to increase the number of claims, but at the same time it reduced financial inflow to BPJS fund. So certainly these policies may have to be revisited at some point to assess, to how can we say, to assess the financial sustainabilities when the tariff increase eventually leads to the increase in the expenditure rapidly. At the same time, the government regulation number 7, 2025, also reduced employment injury insurance JKK contribution rate by half for companies that employ more than 50 employees, so the labor intensive sectors. Footwear, it is still not clear. We don't have data how many companies are eligible for this reduction in contribution rates, but certainly, I think I'm almost certain that footwear sectors, garment sectors may be eligible for these criteria because they employ more than 50 employees, and they are certainly the labor-intensive sectors. So these companies will have contribution reduction for the next 6 months until July, and if this policy continues to be extended again and again, of course, the JKK funds will be also at a risk of depleting. And it is also important to note that JKK contribution rates is so-called recompose or reallocated to the JKP fund. So the government, when the government introduced the unemployment insurance schemes, the government didn't increase the total contribution rate, but maintained the total contribution rate altogether, including JKK, JKM, and JKP. The government didn't increase the contribution rate. So the financial sustainability of JKK and the JKP are both sides of the same coin in practice, because the BPJS collects the JKK contributions from employers, and then they will split 0.36% to JKP fund. So, however, again, the JKK funds are currently collecting a less amount of contributions from labor-intensive sectors because of these temporary measures up to July, 50% cut. I think the government will probably have to carefully assess the financial balance of JKK funds if the U.S. tariff increase hits the labor intensive sectors, because currently the BPJS has much less cash flow, inflow of contribution from employers to JKK funds, and therefore the smaller cash flow to JKP funds in the future if this continues, right? So these are the potential, I think, risks or impacts on the BPJS funds. And I think, okay, one more thing. In practice, unemployed workers in these countries tend to come to BPJS office to withdraw JHT fund, old age saving fund, when they lose job. So if many employees are dismissed by these labor-intensive sectors, mass layoffs takes place, and then many workers will actually come to the BPJS office to also withdraw their savings from JHT fund. So this will eventually lead to leads to income insecurity in old age, because most of these participants may not have Jaminan pension coverage or pension schemes coverage. So that may have a long-term impact on these affected workers in the future, in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, if there are no reforms or no supplementary benefits from the government. Last but not least, I would like to mention about the impact on PKWT, fixed-term contractors. These workers tend to have more vulnerable conditions than PKWT, permanent contractors, because the JKP, unemployment insurance scheme, doesn't provide the benefits in the case of the expiry of fixed-term contracts. However, employers do not have incentives to terminate their employment contracts at the middle of their contract, because then they will have to pay a severance pay. Otherwise, employers can possibly wait until the contracts will just expire. However, the JKP doesn't provide the benefits to these workers when their contracts are expired. So PKWT contracted employees may not have any protections from the labor law through severance, termination payments, or JKP benefits from BPJS employment. So I think these combined negative effects would hit harder on these vulnerable employees in the labor-intensive sectors. So here are some bullet points that I was just doing brainstorming on my end. But if you have any additional ideas, I would like to know. So thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing your comments and your advice so that I can take into account, and we could possibly include in policy briefs or any concrete outputs in the coming weeks and a month. So I hope you will have a good weekend, and thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.